code comments, because if you update the code and don't update the comment in the comments line, and that increases cognitive load and makes it harder to understand what the code's trying to do. Whereas if you just spent more time on the front end thinking of good variable names, making maybe being more verbose for the sake of clarity, then this keeps itself up to date easier. And you don't get these line comments. And the same is true for architecture. And how you do this with architecture is really good names. So really put a lot of thought into how you name your resources. Don't add the word bucket into your buckets. Don't add DB into your database. If I list the buckets in an account, I know they're buckets. I don't need to have the word bucket in there. If your project name is Radar, don't put the name Radar in every single thing that has something else to do. I mean, sometimes just like be really careful. Try to keep names as short as possible, as concise as possible. And no acronyms. I will die on this hill several times. Stop making acronyms. We have enough of them. They increase cognitive load. They can be really lazy and gatekeeping. It's hard when people join the team. You have to explain all these new acronyms to people. And then they become meaningless eventually. People forget what they stand for. So it would have been better just to take a nonsense word that had nothing to do with anything and attribute meaning to it than have an acronym where people are guessing at the meaning or getting it mixed up. No acronyms. The last principle that's really hard in practice but really important is optional adoption. Users are free to do things outside the platform. We don't enforce people to do everything the way we want them to do it. We just won't support that, and that becomes hard when people are using a new framework and they want to try it out. And we want to unblock them, we want to help them, but ultimately it protects our team to not support them because we're able to focus on the things that will provide the most value to most people. So it helps our team and helps the most people. But also we don't want to be gatekeepers. We don't want to block people. So if they're able to do things outside the platform with the understanding that they're going to have to take on the responsibility of maintaining it and doing everything themselves, they're free to do that. And then if they have a win there and they solve a problem that we haven't solved for yet or find a new framework that's objectively better for our use case than another, then we can move people onto that and generalize those wins. Like I said, this is hard in practice. Sometimes you do need to have more strict rules around things, or think we need to have those strict rules. Still figuring this out. So I'm going to get into some specifics now. I just disclaimers that this is specific for our company, small company, and we're in specific technologies and stuff. One isn't better than another. These are what we chose. The more important thing, what I'll try to focus on more, is our reasoning behind these decisions. We're in Google Cloud. It wasn't my choice, but I don't mind it. I knew what I was getting into. I took the job. I was excited about it. I come from an AWS background. I'm a Google fanboy, so it was fun to try it out. The short of it is there's some things I feel like Google Cloud has got better because they came later and were able to do some fundamentals, but there are a lot of days where I really miss AWS. So I wouldn't say one to another, but that's just what that in Google Cloud. Our big decision early on is how we're going to do compute. We are in serverless, specifically Cloud Run, which is basically a container in the cloud. We debated a long time, should we do Kubernetes? And I really think that would have been a mistake for us. Just keep it simple at first, and we could always pivot onto Kubernetes later if we needed to, and we haven't needed to. And that saved us a lot of headache, a lot of time of doing doing the underlying configuration management stuff. I get emails all the time about you need to update your old Kubernetes clusters, and I don't actually need to do that. None of our active stuff is on Kubernetes. We put our front-end applications in it, even though they're static, single-page applications. We could easily serve them out of a bucket or something. And there were some early technical issues we had with that aren't worth going into, but we also made this decision because the CI/CD is identical to the back-end application, so those could match and could share code across those two things. And this might change soon, we'll see. We also use Google Batch for serverless. This is an example of we ran into situations where Cloud Run wasn't good for longer running processes. So we trialed this out and it worked well for some cases. So first we have everyone start on Cloud Run, and if they need to, we'll move on to Batch. But again, it's serverless. It's basically just a container running in cloud. The most important decision we made was everything is containerized so that we can move things from one thing to another easily. Another big early decision was we only have 2 environments. My experience at companies was, and especially at our size, no one really uses the third environment if we have three. Either everyone skips over the middle environment, or sorry, clock is wrong here. Okay, sorry about that. Everyone skips over the middle environment, or everyone ignores the early environment, or worse, people are in one or the other, but not, and so it is cognitive load which application is deployed where. So we decided to only have two environments, and this has worked really well for us. The cases where we would need more environments can be covered by preview environments, which is on a roadmap, or ephemeral environments. Or we can set up if we need something for load testing, a more sandbox or environment, or we're evaluating or we're trying to do a re-architecture. We can, instead of having a whole environment that we deploy everything to, we just set up a parallel service for just that one thing and are able to test that out instead of, So it's easier, it's simpler in a lot of ways than making a broad decision. I don't know about you guys, a lot of my job is figuring out permissions. So we have a lot of strategies for this. We try to do least privilege, which means starting with nothing. Practically, we start with nothing and add permissions until they get what they need, keep running the errors and keep fixing those errors. We do role-based access control, and the big thing here is to try to, again, have really good names so that it's self-documenting, so that we have a role named radar developer, and in that we assign that to a person, and because they're a radar developer and they have everything they need to do to develop our radar application. So the self-documentation there provides clarity. Someone starts developing on radar, we assign that to them, they have everything they need. Now the challenge here is scopes. If you're too broad in defining your roles, then you violate least privilege. We run into this with someone needs access to BigQuery, so we need to assign them our data engineering role. They don't need everything that data engineers need, they just need the BigQuery thing. So too broad violates least privilege, but if it's too narrow, it ruins the point. If everyone has 4 to 6 roles, then it's not very clear what exactly they do. Someone comes and joins the team, everyone has a different set of roles. We don't know which role this person's going to need. So this is a constant back and forth of trying to redefine our roles. How we unblock users is the same way we unblock everything else. We manually grant permission. If there isn't a precedent, we write it down. We research the best one, or more often than not, we just revert it because they only need it for a short amount of time anyway. And so this also helps with not violating these privileges. They don't have roles, they only need it for one day, following them around for the next several months. And then what happens if someone asks for something that you don't know how much they actually need, they don't know what they need? We always ask, if we don't have a business context of what exactly they need, we ask if they could use less, which is similar to the one napkin policy from New Girl. If they ask, if they, for write permission, we ask if read is okay. If they ask for the permission in dev and prod, we ask if just dev is okay. And 90% of the time, it is okay. And if they need more, we can always elevate their permissions. Some specific processes that we've developed. We do trunk-based development. We only have one long running branch. We deploy to dev on merge and deploy to production on tag. This makes it so we always know what's deployed where. It encourages short branches because people can only deploy something if they merged in. And if you need to roll back, you revert it and push it onto the branch. So you always know what's where. This is a good example of something people have opted out of. We have teams that are on GitFlow because that's something their application is better suited for. And that's okay, because their specific application is pretty different from the rest of ours. So if we don't support it on the platform, but our platform wouldn't be very useful to them anyway. Yeah. Our Terraform strategy, I'm running out of time, so I'm going to go quick through this. Mostly about being self-documented rather than being something we can tear down and spin up really easily. Good variable names. Someone with no Terraform experience should be able to copy and paste it, and it's all human readable and easy to know what's going on there. Which means we abstract a lot of the complexity or accept complexity even in manual processes. Again, works because we're small and we have good documented cases for when it is manual in order to not make things more complicated. And the last thing is support channel. We have the infamous Slack channel for this. And we try to keep it reasonable. If someone DMs us, we try to push them to the transparent public Slack channel. If someone's trying to troubleshoot something, we ask them a lot of questions, lead them to solve it themselves rather than just us solving it and saying, okay, you're good. We explain our steps so that they are brought into the process. And yeah, we rotate who's watching this so that other people can be more into deep work. Yeah, clear about what is in our responsibility. How's it going? I think it's going pretty well. Mostly gotten good feedback from people when I ask, or ambivalent feedback, which I guess is good too, because what we're doing is at least not blocking people. I'm meeting monthly with the team lead to hear what the biggest pain points are, to figure out what isn't going well or what we can focus on next. We have a long way to go, and we do have a lot to clean up. Yeah, I think that we've learned a lot, and we're continuing to iterate, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. Connect with me on LinkedIn, join the Platform Engineering Slack, platformengineering.org. I joined that recently, which I was a part of a long time ago. But yeah, I'd love to hear your decisions, the interesting solutions and problems that you found. Yeah, any thoughts on my talk and things that I'm doing horribly wrong, please let me know. All right, thank you, everybody.
Does anyone have any questions for Tim? All right.
Thank you. I will try to be very quick. So, as I got it correctly, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. So that's the platform that's for the DevOps platform, correct? So that's whatever the product it's for DevOps purposes. It's not, we are not talking about the specific application which has a business stuff, correct?
Yeah, so, sorry, new mic. We try to solve these shared problems, so the things that everyone's running into. So it is a lot of the things that we typically see in DevOps, so a lot of the cloud problems, but it also comes like the example I keep using, what Python package are we going to use, which shared tools are we going to use, and yeah, we don't focus on the business problems. That's what the specific.
Yeah, I got it. So this is an example for the one business product, for example, I don't know, reporting application, which has a product owner, which has a developers, and this story was about the platform for this product, or is it a story about the DevOps process and DevOps platform which you're using to deploy, manage, build application? That's it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, then my question, how the roles like system architect, plays in this platform? Is it inside this platform or it's outside? How it's, so you didn't mention this role completely.
Yeah, so for us, we're a small team, so we kind of do everything. We're the product owners, we're the system architects, which is why we also lean heavily on our users for gaining the insights that they have. But there are, in the more bigger organizations, they do have, a lot of platform teams have a product owner. They have people who are doing user research into the internal developers. And they have these more dedicated, specified roles. But we haven't needed that yet. We might grow into that. But yeah, a lot of engineers do have that. And the platform engineering Slack is a great place to ask the questions to get a broader sense, because I have my experience, but there's a lot of people who have more experience in bigger companies that would need those kind of specialized roles.
Yeah, we got time.
I really liked your mention of the term optional acceptance, where you let your teams build out whatever frameworks they want to put in, and then you say, we just don't support that. Do you have a pipeline, if a team develops something that works really well, do you have a pipeline to integrate that into your current support options in your current platform? And so if that's happened in the past, could you talk to that a little bit, like how that pipeline works?
Yeah, sure. Let's see. Some specific examples of when that happened. Our data engineering side, we use Airflow, and there was a time where that wasn't really working out for them. And there was just a specific use case that Airflow is good at a lot of things, but not the specific kind of first influx of requests. And so they were trialing out a couple different things, and we didn't tell them no or say wait for us to try these out. They tried them out themselves, kind of took the responsibility to do that, and they found Google Workflows, which is like AWS Step Functions, which was better for this particular use case, and they added that onto their Airflow pipeline so that it can call out to that. And then so once they did that, this is actually, we haven't generalized this one yet, so it wasn't the best example, but it is similar to another example with, now I'm blanking on it, with AWS Patch, where they trialed that out, did a good job with that. We figured out how that it works for us, and then but they had some issues of like they couldn't see the logs. So then we took that, and we figured out how we could actually get the logs out of there, and then another team started using it later on. We don't have a formalized process for doing that, but yeah, those are two examples of times where people have gone outside the platform, had success, and we've more formally integrated it to the platform.
Awesome. Any more questions? I have one more question for you. So I don't know if you got into the details of this, but how did you establish the guardrails or that compromise between ultimate, like full flexibility for those dev teams and the guardrails that you put in place? Are those in specific kind of like configuration files that are custom to your platform or team, or how'd you do that?
Yeah, so the only guardrails we put in place are the ones that we put a lot of thought into. So the times where we don't put guardrails is maybe I have a gut reaction, but I don't actually put a lot of time or research or proof into this. We won't do a guardrail there. But when there's something like these roles in Google Cloud that are overly permissive, we'll have specific denies on Terraform where if someone tries to use that role, it'll reject it and say we decided specifically not to use this role. So there are some systems inside that say you can't use this. A lot of times our platform we want to make it more self-service. Right now, there is more. We are having to do a lot of manual things because that's worked so far. But as we scale up, we need to make it more self-service. But since it's not completely self-service, we are able to see the changes people are making and be able to nudge or correct in the right direction if we have opinions on those things. And that also is in our wiki. We have a platform wiki that describes all of the services that we use and say for compute we use this. We don't use Kubernetes. We're not going to use any other sort of flavor of SQL. We use Postgres. So if you want a database, that's what we're going to use. And this is how we set it up.
Cool. Thank you so much. One more round of applause.
Thanks, everybody.
Can we get Derek Schneider up here? Thanks. Quick reminders and some notes. We got one more slot open for open spaces. Actually, it's a lot of really good topics on the board. Some of them fell off, so if you did suggest a topic and it's in the wrong spot, apologies. Just go up there and put it in the right slot. Big other notes. We just finished a round of workshops this morning. There's another workshop in the afternoon. Consider joining that workshop around EKS blueprints and Terraform. And we're almost there. All right. Okay. How many folks here are running a platform or are on a platform team? Yeah, that person has walked away. Did a lot of what Tim spoke about resonate with you all?
Yeah.
Like, what was one of the main things that resonated? Getting other folks to take ownership is impossible. Yeah, I was also a platform engineer and lead and doing the same thing you were doing, Tim. And I had the unfortunate buy-in from leadership, so I had a lot of sticks and some carrots too, but mostly just sticks. I tried not to use them as much as possible. I like that concept of making your platforms appealing so they want to be on it, right? It's like an active choice to be on it. I think that's a powerful concept. Cool, are you ready? Ready? All right. It's the wrong guy. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, I got
So unfortunately, Carl couldn't be here today, so we're gonna do a warm welcome to Derek.
Yeah, sorry for all you guys looking for Carl. He's not here, unfortunately. He had to take care of his own businesses. And I did hear from him. Things are going well, so that's good to hear. But we'll let you know that, Carl and I have been through this journey for the last couple of years. So I've been deeply involved with it. We do share the same passion from what we're doing on the DevOps side within Dell. And I know you heard many times that Laura was up here earlier talking about Dell. We are not just a hardware company. Yes, we have great hardware, and most of you guys do and have used it. And we heard a lot of times in our booth that people come, oh, I love your laptop, or I need to get a new one. That's great. Keep buying our laptops, so they're good. But we also have a very strong development culture in Dell. And because of that, we're looking at DevOps as kind of the key of helping to drive that. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to talk about what our journey was. Some of you guys are in smaller, all different size companies, some small, some big. We're obviously Dell's a fairly large company, so we have to manage a whole lot more engineers who all have their own same different mindset, and also bringing in more cultures that we kind of acquire. That's where this one comes in. You can look at this even back looking at what Dell EMC had been. We started off as Data General, and then EMC came along, acquired Data General, and then Dell came along, acquired EMC. And that's just those three pieces. And now you look at each of those with their own acquisitions throughout their own processes, their own product lines, and their own way of doing things. And they all thought some had love-hate relationships with what their process was, but they were bought into what they were doing. And it's hard to make that adjustment on what and changing the behavior of how people are doing their development and release. So the challenge that we did have, ISG was kind of formed when Dell acquired EMC. We had roughly about 12,000 engineers, small drop in the bucket. The amount of product lines we had, and even the processes within those product lines. There was a bunch of different things coming in. Each started off independently. They were all on their own little platforms. They're all, their pipelines were all different. Like I said, they liked them and they hated them, but processes, everything was different. So the result of what we came from that, looking at that, is that we had a ton of duplication of effort. A lot of people were working on the same thing, inventing the wheel in different silos, and that's the first challenge. And then you had this the knowledge was spread across teams. So you might have two people, one group might be trying to discover new techniques and technologies, while another team may have already mastered it. But there was no relationship between those. We had no idea what was going on between the two. So we were basically building out that tower of Babel. It's getting way too big, but not only that, you had the language barriers, right? People weren't talking, weren't communicating with each other. Maybe we were using different languages for developing it. Maybe Python, Java, even someone was using Perl, right? So trying to get that all together and making sure that everybody's working together. So the first thing we try to look at is the tools that we had. Maybe start with something simple, looking at the industry-leading tools that we had out there. There's Jira, there's Artifactory, GitHub. So how can we bring everybody together those? A lot of those organizations are already using those. A lot of people are in GitHub, but they're maybe on a different instance of GitHub. A lot were using Jira, again, different instance. It's hard to manage the projects. We had relationships between the two. How can we relate one instance of Jira with the other? It's really hard to kind of track those stories you want to do that do tie into each other. So bringing those all in. So we did migrate about 1,400 different tools that way, just making sure you're all on the same platform. And that was a big accomplishment there, because now people are starting to communicate. And you can see have more visibility of what they're doing. And through this process, we never wanted to have that iron fist approach, right? Because DevOps, what works for one team may not work for another. But it's all that process. We want to make sure everybody was able to contribute to that and have a voice in that. It wasn't coming in saying, you must need to do this or you must do that. It was like, what works for you? What works for the other team? Let's bring it together so we do have a common, that common good to try to get that software released. So once we had the tool set there, and also in the tool set, we would also look beyond the industry-leading tools. We also had a lot of in-house developed tools that did a specific task on a specific product, but that may have benefited others. So we didn't want to have two teams within Dell developing an in-house tool as well that was doing essentially the same thing. So once we had those tools, what was the next step? The next step obviously was communication. We wanted to make sure that everybody knew what we were doing before, during, and after that was happening. Again, we don't want to surprise people and say, hey, you must do it this way. We wanted to get their input early so that we knew what they needed, what were their headaches that they had, what are the points that they loved about what they had, what made their life easier, and we wanted to make their life easier as they went forward. So it was really, share. Everybody share. And it's not only the tools to share, but also the process. So that's the best way that we were able to get people to buy in for the changes that we're making. And then we come to culture. Everybody in culture has heard that many times in many of the talks today. You all know the CALM acronym, which I know we talk about no acronyms, but that's another acronym. It's a good one. Culture is number one, right? Not because it's the most important, but it must start there, right? You must have that culture to make this work, right? Again, sharing is caring. You want to, what is the culture in the DevOps, right? That's shared understanding of your developers and your operations, and just sharing that responsibility for that. So we definitely wanted to make sure everybody had a voice. We do a great job at Dell. We're using Slack pretty extensively. We have tons of channels, and we're meeting up within the company and within the organization to make sure we're hearing everybody's voice, and we encourage people to talk. So there's plenty of channels for people to give their input on what we want to do or what we need to do. So that's where we're looking through. You've got the Agile, CI/CD pipelines, and DevOps. They all should be flexible, and they are. They need to be a team effort. And what we also need is not only us coming out and saying, hey, this is the best practice you need to do, but we need to have the mindsets from the right level. So obviously the executive support, which we definitely have at Dell. We look at the Jeff Clark level. He's very passionate about this, and he wants to see this work. So we have that top-down support on this, and when we come up with that, what we want to accomplish here, we know we can present it to them and get their back on that. So that definitely is a huge first step, right? So everybody is on the same page and it's at the right level. And you want to make sure you have that core of the leadership and the thought process that can help you to get through those, to help you find the best solutions and work with the team. And obviously, good tools, you have to have the tools to do it. Or throwing a tool out there that doesn't quite get you everything you want, but just enough. It's just that's what it's gonna do in your process. It's gonna get you just far enough, and not as far as you want to go. Training is very, very important. Not only to let people as new teams come in, or even new developers come in and tell them, hey, this is what we're doing, this is how we want to do it, and learn from them, but continue that, because what works today may not be the right solution for tomorrow. So it's a constantly evolving, not only with what we're doing, but what we want to do. And again, going down communication, have to train them, have to continue the continuous training on that. And you look at this one's, not a recipe, it is a mindset. You have to get everybody on the same board, or on the same page with that. Platform. And I think Laura said it as well earlier. She doesn't believe in that if you build it, they will come. To an extent, yeah, they won't. But if you build it without listening, then they definitely won't come, right? Because you're just building something that you think is right. And it might be, but you don't get input from all the key developers and the people using that you don't know, is this the right way to do it? So definitely, I mentioned many times, if you want to listen, communicate, keep that going. Look at the three buckets. Look at that bucket three. First bucket, is really that new feature development. This is, what the developer experiences when their daily life, right? They're either working on the new feature development, great technical debt, which includes the bugs, right? We all have technical debt. We all try to reduce it, but it's going to be their kind of job security, right? And then everything else is all those annoying bits that, what you need to deal with the rest of the day, right? Is the network down? Am I not able to access GitHub or whatever it is that's bugging you? So we definitely want to keep that bucket three down, and we want to keep that out of the mind of our developers, right? Last thing we want to do is come in and say, hey, I can't get to Artifact here, I can't get to Jira, I can't do my work, or I can't get to my Debian, whatever it is that they're working on. So if we can reduce that or eliminate that, and that's going to help them to work more effective and make sure that they are getting their work done and worried about what they need to do, which is fit working on the first 2 buckets. Hopefully more on bucket 1, and then keeping that bucket 2 down. And I kind of, the joke here is that this is the way, right? But this is the way that we don't want it to be a mandate. So not like, hey, this is the way, this down. It's more, this is the way that we as a team have developed and established as the key way to get things done. Okay, so what is it for us as we're scaling this out and getting more and more teams into this? Obviously, it benefits the engineers. We're using industry-leading technologies and tools, going out to see what's out there and continuously to involve in that, but also working on those tools in-house and the processes in-house and getting those working. It's also an easy way to, question? For the win? Yeah, so, even within Dell, we don't want to change the roles within ISG and Dell. We have a lot of different products, a lot of different things working on. If we need to get more kind of the swarming thing to get people to work on what is most important for Dell, what we need to release, is there a high priority item we need to work on, it allows us to shift those engineers easier because they know the process, they know the tools, they know the technology. It's just really easy to go from one to the other. And they can really focus on that, learning those technologies and know how they work. They don't have to worry about the process as much. And there's, everybody can contribute. We want everybody to contribute. It's across all team boundaries. It's not, hey, this team does it this way, this team does it that way. We're all working together. We're all experiencing what works, what doesn't work, and hopefully continue to evolve that and make it better. And then within Dell, right, we don't want to have so many tools to support, right? We have a lot of times, when we first started this, we saw tool X and tool Y essentially doing the same thing, or set up differently, or maybe they were even using it incorrectly. Maybe you're using Artifact wrong in one group and the other group was using it the right way. So we're able to see what are the best practices of using those and consolidate that all together in collaboration. The ramp up times for the teams to get started, get going, we have new products starting up. That ramp up was way sooner than it was before, right? Because you didn't have to relearn everything as you shifted from one to the other. So everybody was on the same page and definitely helped in that way. And yes, win-win for them. Lots of wins. Some of the tips, some of the things we learned in there. Obviously, changing mindset is hard. I talked about earlier, people do come in, that, those teams have a process that, for right or wrong reasons, if it works for them, they don't want to change it. Why do they want to change? And you look at the J curve type thing where, yeah, you make a change, it might be good at first and then it looks bad, but it will be better at the end. So trying to convince that, yeah, you might take a step back here for a while, but in the long run, you will be ahead of the game. You will be able to get things accomplished a lot quicker and more efficiently. So that mindset is the hardest thing. It's hard to convince that, but working with them, making sure they do have a voice is definitely going to help with that. Over communicate, I can't say that more. You definitely, before, during, after, mention it, that's key. Make sure everybody is attuned to what's going on, know what they're going to expect and when they're going to expect it. The last thing you do, and usually what we get the biggest response from people is like, we make a change, nobody tells us, and now it changes all there. They might have scripting or something else that is affected by that. We just making sure everybody is on the same page and knows what's coming down that pipeline. Understanding those use cases, what is everybody doing? What, again, works for one team might not work for another, but if you understand those use cases and you can come up with a common solution for both, great. But if you need to make adjustments that say, okay, here's this use case that we need to handle, how are we going to do that? And how are we going to support that, right? Using that team to help with that support may help in that area. And yeah, software development, it is a team sport. We're all working together. Teamwork helps the dream work. So you want to make sure that everybody is on the same page, working towards the same goal, and have the same tools to get that Some of the future things we're looking at, obviously we want to reduce that bucket 3. If we can eliminate, that's great, but that's the key. We want to make sure that that bucket 3, like we talked about networking, if that goes down, how can we make sure that the network goes up? How can we make sure our tools are accessible when you need it? So the last thing we don't want developers to put their code through that pipeline. Why don't we get that build and the builder down, and get the build server down, or something else is wrong. You want to make sure that that bucket 3 is eliminated or reduced. That common developer workflow, everybody knows what needs to be done. They all can help with contributing to that, and it's going from one group to another. You know what that workflow is going to look like. More services. Yeah, you can look at more services might be bad, but we want to make sure that the services we do have meets that goal at what they need. So that's for the service, and we continually evolve. We're always communicating. We're always learning from what we're doing. You know, we look at the agile transformation we're doing, especially, you know, there's retros in there. We're talking all the time, what worked, what didn't work. And we don't just take that, what didn't work, and say, okay, great, thanks for letting me know, let's move on. No, we take that, we try to make action items out of that so that we do continue to improve to make it easier for the life of our developers. But that's all I have.
Thank you so much. Any questions? Oh, all the way in the back. They can be run today. Was there a question up here as well? All right. Okay.
Bucket 3.
Go back to bucket 3.
Yes. So there's 3 buckets in what your daily life is as a developer. You're either working on new features, you're working on your technical debt, which includes bugs, or the everything else, which is all the annoying things. You talk about, like, you come in the morning and you can't get out to your desk anymore. You can't get on the Jira to see what your stories are and update those, or you can't get to GitHub.
All right, we have another question here.
Yeah, thanks for your presentation. So I'm with IQVIA, Jay Patel. So I lead global enterprise DevOps. We're about a 100,000 employee company. So we're going through a similar effort we've established it several years ago. And so the question for you here is that in our organization, we have project leaders that are responsible for a P&L, essentially. So they've got a portfolio of products, and we have a DevOps platform, like you mentioned here as well. And so part of this is to influence those leaders why it's beneficial to onboard their products onto this DevOps platform. Now, I just want to ask you, how did you convince those leaders that are more their objectives around increasing revenue, reducing costs?
Yeah, that's a good question, and that's a key point, right? So you don't really want to jump in all at once, right? Because that's the hardest thing, is convincing everybody, hey, this works. So one of the main things you want to do is maybe start with a small group first, right? You have a couple of teams that are coming in, they want to do some kind of transformation on what their process is. Work with them, show that it does work, have that success story. And then from there, then you can start working on other teams that might be more interested. And then start with those that have that interest level high. And eventually it does have a domino effect where people see that, hey, it's working for them. They're releasing code quicker, it's higher quality, and they're having less issues with getting that code released. So as you get those success stories, that does help you to then present it to other teams or other groups that say, hey, this is what's been working. And they get their feedback, and that's the key too, is making sure that they know they're part of the solution. They're not just the consumers of it. We do have the concept of, we look at developers as partners, not necessarily customers. Customers, that's the person that's like, you're gonna tell me what to do, okay, we're gonna do it. Partners, they're gonna say, here's what I need. Let's work together to find the right solution for your needs. Any other questions?
All righty. Let's have another round of applause for Devin. We're going to take our lunch break now. We'll be back at 1 o'clock, I believe. So get some good food in you, get energized, and be ready to round up today's talk. Security for CI/CD coming on. know if I have that slide. The slide was up earlier, right? For the registration. The registration link is open. All right. Are we ready? Okay, awesome. You all ready for some Ignite Talks? Oh, I think you don't want it. Yeah, that's it. All right, are you all ready for some Ignite Talks? Are you all ready for some Ignite Talks? There we go. All right, we got a great list of folks. I'm going to hand it over to Chris. There we go.
Thank you, Nermal. All right, day 2 Ignites. We've got some great topics up here for you. But first, I had to steal Nermal's idea because he's been tinkering with ChatGPT, and I don't know if you guys have tried to do this, but I find that one of the things that ChatGPT is the worst at is writing jokes. I have an 8-year-old, and I figure, the bar is pretty low. ChatGPT should probably be able to make my 8-year-old laugh. Generally not. But I thought, well, I'll give it one more try in the spirit of Nermal's ChatGPT prompts here. And I'm not going to preface this. I'm just going to let you guys be the judge. All right? I was asked to give a 5-minute Ignite talk the other day. That's like trying to make a cup of coffee in 5 seconds. You're just standing there pouring hot water over the coffee grounds, and suddenly the timer goes off, and you're like, wait, I haven't even boiled the water yet. It's stressful, man. It's like trying to fit a whole year's worth of ideas into 5 measly minutes. I'm surprised I didn't start sweating bullets up there, but hey, at least it was over in a flash. Kind of like my love life. That's not bad for ChatGPT, huh? All right. Thanks, Norman. All right, first up, we've got Aaron. Let me get the display set in here. Aaron, you ready? Yep, you can set it right.
Just a reminder about
You ready?
All right. Hello, Raleigh. I'm Aaron Suggs, and in my career, I've managed both customer-facing product teams and the internal infrastructure platform SRE teams. So in this talk, I'd like to share my experience for how infrastructure teams can adapt how they work with product teams based on the technical maturity of the product. So here's the problem. Sometimes product teams want infra to provide some highly managed service that makes their lives easy. Other times, they want the freedom and flexibility to choose whatever works best for them. So really what we're talking about are decision rights. Like, when do infra teams get to prescribe the tools that other teams must use? And when does infra embrace innovation from the other teams? I found that it depends on the technical maturity of the product in question. So this is a technology adoption lifecycle. It models how and why different groups adopt new things. So let's apply it to some product teams in your organization. Suppose you're building a next-gen deploy tool, and let's think about how various teams and services might adopt it. So first up are the innovators. They're the risk takers, and they're eagerly searching for an advantage for new technology. For your deploy tool, the innovators are the first team that are willing to try it out with their service. Next come the early adopters. They want to stay ahead of the curve, but they also need a little bit of social proof from the innovators that this tool is worth their attention. So your deploy tool success with the innovators will help convince the next few early adopters to try it out. And then come the majority. So they're significantly more skeptical than the earlier folks. They're not really trying to keep ahead, but rather they don't want to get left behind. So for your deploy tool, the majority adopts it once you've worked out all the kinks and once it has like very obvious desirable benefits. And last are the laggards, which tend to be highly resistant to change and not influenced by their peers. For your deploy tool, these are like the old business critical legacy systems that few people understand, but there's a lot of risk, or there's a lot to lose if something breaks. So to recap, that's the technology adoption lifecycle. From the innovators seeking change, the early adopters, the majority that follows the crowd, and the laggards who are change averse. All right, so now let's switch gears and think about how infra and product teams can interact with each other. And the book Team Topologies, which I highly recommend, teaches 3 main types of interactions. So first up, collaboration is working together for a fixed period of time to discover and build new things. In collaborating, there's a lot of creative problem solving as teams stretch their abilities. Examples of collaboration might be trying out a new data store or starting that next-gen deploy tool with an innovative service. Next is facilitating, where one team helps and mentors another. Examples of this are like architecture and design reviews or incident postmortems. There's kind of a checklist to follow, or mostly a checklist, but there's also room for nuance and special circumstances. Third is acts as a service, and this is when an infrastructure team provides something that other teams consume as a service, with little discussion and lots of like self-service execution and automation. Examples are like actual internal services, chat ops, CI/CD, etc. So let's recap. We've got the close collaboration, facilitating and structured mentorship, acts as a service. One other interaction that I'll call out is no support, like a skunkworks internal project that's intentionally isolated from the org. All right, so now comes the fun part. We're going to basically combine these two to reveal what types of interactions work well at different phases of technology adoption. So when innovators are doing something new, they either need infra to be collaborators to find creative solutions together, or maybe be explicit and just say they're on their own with no support. It's too early for some of the more structured interactions because there's so much technical discovery to do. Once you have a few early adopters, you can start to operationalize your new tool, and you can start moving to a facilitating relationship. So now's the time to start making reusable checklists and standard processes, maybe even automate parts of it. If that goes well, now you're at the majority, and they're eager to adopt your new thing. It needs to evolve to be a low-touch self-service tool to prevent you and your infra team from becoming a bottleneck to adoption. And congrats, your tool is now an important part of your organization's stack. Finally come the laggards, those tricky cases who probably have good reasons to resist adopting your tool. For them, I find it helpful to go back into a facilitating relationship with mentoring and some creative problem solving. So bottom line, I recommend adjusting the way you interact with other teams to align to the technical maturity of the project that you're working on. I hope this approach helps you work more effectively at your organization, and thank you all for your time today.
All right. Thanks, Aaron. Next up, we have Katie. Maybe. You have to know that that's like one of those off the menu items.
Yeah.
All right, you ready?
Hey y'all, my name is Katie Basil. I am a manager of a group of IT project managers at Red Hat. And today I'm going to talk through how to have a successful and fun hackathon, all by telling your team, y'all can do whatever you want. This is my first time with auto advancing slides and my first time with a mic, so hold on to your applause. Ooh, that was good. Okay, why a hackathon? Y'all, one of the major factors for us was process burnout. I've got some teams that are on their 102-week sprint. So that's 200 weeks of backlog grooming, sprint planning, daily save notes, retrospective, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. It starts to feel very Bill Murray Groundhog Day. We've lost the water cooler. So most of my coworkers and I are now remote, and that has its challenges. We are trying to find ways to engage in the virtual space, and Hackathon has given us a chance to kind of connect outside of our adversarial new skills. So for most of us, I feel like we think, hey, I love working with people that know more. So this is just a quick snapshot of some of the tools, integrations, languages, hardware that some of our teams have looked into in previous hackathons. So how to be successful, leadership has to be bought in. For us, this was twofold. One, hackathon can't interrupt business critical, time-sensitive deliverables, duh. But hackathon also had to have leadership interested. Invite them to your kickoff, invite them to your demos, make them see the cool shit your teams are building. The team has to be bought in. And y'all, I thought this was gonna be the easy one, but I've got some engineers that they have backlog burnt down with phobia, which is the technical term, and they are so afraid if they are not working 24/7, the work won't get done. You have to teach them the work will always be there. So in the fashion of quick, I'm gonna run you guys through the rules of hackathon. Take that with a grain of salt, maybe guidelines of hackathon. But the first one for us is work on whatever you want. So this can be a passion project, this can be something that is work related. I don't care, y'all can work on whatever you want. The second rule is simply, don't work by yourself and don't work with the same folks you always work with. Hackathon is about learning and new connections. Both you cannot do well if you are hiding out in your hobbit hole with the same folks you always hide out with. And rule number 3 is demo your findings at the end of the week. So this is where we've got that edge of accountability to hackathon. Everyone's responsible for doing some sort of demo at the end. It can be a pros and cons list of a new language you learned. It can be explain how a hypothesis fails. I don't care, but everybody has to demo. Rule number 4 is have fun. And y'all, this is something my team excels at so much that we've got a search by fun on our hackathon showcase page. We do walkout songs. We encourage pre-recorded demos with Keanu Reeves voiceovers. We invite folks to show their personalities, and I rarely get disappointed. So what's worked for us? Empower your teams to say no. We've carved out 1 week for hackathon. They should be able to spend their time actually focused on it. Obviously, if there's a pants on fire prod moment, like maybe they might have to stop hackathon for a second. But in that same vein, we also squash meetings. What else has worked for us is voting. So at the end of hackathon, we encourage folks to vote for the best work-related or the best non-work-related project, and then do some sort of rewarding for the folks that win. We've done anything from like day of PTO to gift certificates to flags, pick your poison. For our cadence, we're currently doing it quarterly, and that seems like the right balance of not too frequently and not too infrequently. Continuous improvement at the end of the retrospective, we spend some time thinking through how can we do this better next time. And then we actually pair it with a 1-week tech debt, bug squashing kind of sprint just to make it more of an event. How to measure success. This is just a snapshot of one of our Google chats or one of our last hackathons. And it makes my like mama bear heart happy to see folks encouraging each other and supporting each other. On top of stuff like this, we've also had more than one project become a product for our teams that we've worked on in other sprints. Okay, so I'm gonna say this. Y'all can work on whatever you want for a week. Now y'all say it.
Y'all can work on whatever you want
for a week. Not that hard, right? Thank you guys.
All right, thanks, Katie. Avert your eyes, everyone. All right, next up, we've got Andy.
The Great Way of All Kanagawa is one of the most recognizable works of art in the world. It is an Ukiyo-e Japanese woodblock print by the artist Katsushika Hokusai. It depicts a giant wave crashing down on boats with Mount Fuji in the background. There's even a phone emoji for this. Personally, I love Ukiyo-e prints like this. The quality, creativity, and craftsmanship they exhibit inspire me to instill high quality in my own work. There are several lessons we can learn from Ukiyo-e masters like Hokusai in how we approach software quality. because testing is an art as much as it is engineering. When testing, you do something and you make sure it works. It's a craft that we hone based on our experiences. There is an art to software quality. So my first conviction on quality is focus on behavior. Ukiyo-e prints were bright, vibrant, and portable. They were inexpensive, yet impressive. They were artsy, yet accessible. The features of these prints made them valuable. When we develop and test software, we should also focus on good behaviors. That's why I advocate for things like behavior-driven development and Gherkin. They keep you focused on what drives value. My second conviction is prioritize on risk. Ooh, big scary word. Artists pick subjects that would sell, like celebrities, actors, and female beauties. Ukiyo-e was a business, and artists needed to make prints that people would want to buy. As testers, we should prioritize test coverage based on risk as well, covering the most valuable behaviors first. These are the core behaviors of an app, and if they break, it's game over. Keep tests fast in a time, expand coverage as resources permit. My third conviction is automate. The great wave is woodblock prints, not a painting. Thousands of copies were printed in its day. Entire books like the Menkagaku were also printed. Automation played a big role in print production. Automating tests can save time, increase test coverage, and empower continuous delivery. Define your goals and treat automation like full software development. It can even do cool things like finding visual differences in your apps. My fourth conviction is shift left and right. Woodblock printing required multiple roles to be successful: a publisher, an artist, a carver, and a printer. Quality had to be considered at every step. Every role was responsible for quality. The same is true for software development, am I right? Shift left means doing testing work earlier in the development process, while shifting right means monitoring software quality during and after releases. Everyone participates. My fifth conviction is give fast feedback. Printers needed to spot issues quickly to correct their action or warn the publisher that woodblocks were wearing down. Misprints were rare, but each print was unique due to the manual impressions. CI/CD is a common phrase in the tech industry, but it needs CT for continuous testing for quality control. Testing helps teams find issues quickly, which enables them to fix them before they become more serious. My sixth conviction is go lean. Woodblock printing was a competitive business, and publishers had to be shrewd. Ukiyo-e artists often copied each other's styles and innovated by changing color schemes to meet market demands. Going lean doesn't mean skipping tests or coverage. Instead, teams should set up continuous testing with feedback loops from the start and prioritize the most valuable activities. Success will snowball as you iteratively improve upon the system. My seventh conviction is open up. Japanese art influenced Western art and vice versa. Be open to new ideas and experiments, like how Hokusai used new pigment to create the Great Wave, and how Van Gogh incorporated traits from Japanese prints. Open testing can improve the quality of our work and software products by sharing test cases and results. Openness has great advantages, such as helping others learn, developing better software, and becoming better maintainers. Ukiyo-e prints remain popular today for their ability to make the floating world tangible for common people. Like art, software is meant for people, so show empathy for your customers and users. Remember, as a tester, you are advocating for your users. These 8 convictions I shared today are convictions I've learned the hard way through my career. Whether you are making woodblock prints or running test cases, these principles can help you make your own great waves. So thank you so much for attending my talk today. My name is Andy Knight. I'm the Automation Panda, and I work with Apple Tools. Come chat with me if you would like one of these high quality prints. I'll be in the open space for testing at 1:45. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Andy. Next up, we've got Gary. Gary, ready?
All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gary Cantor. I'm a senior cloud engineer at Cloud Research Solutions. I've been in IT operations for about 10 years now. Over the last few years, my work has shifted more towards DevSecOps with a hybrid technical and leadership role. Today, we're going to talk about our team's experience with deploying and managing multiple air-gapped networks. We have a lot of government customers that expect a heavy focus on security. So we try to automate as much as we can to make it easier for ourselves to deploy and maintain these air-gapped networks. I'm sure many of you are experienced with deploying and maintaining production networks. There might be even some of you that have experience with managing air-gapped networks, usually for compliance. They're usually not fun, but we try to make our job easier to automate by automating as much as we can. These challenges that we experience with single air-gapped networks compound when you start to scale out to multiple air-gapped networks. The time and labor needed to support grow exponentially to unsustainable levels in the long run. So what can you do to make this easier for yourselves? Well, we went with using a collection of services and technology to automate as much as we can. We did this with a mixture of Amazon Web Services, Terraform for our infrastructure as code, and SaltStack for our configuration as code. Leveraging AWS as an infrastructure as a service provider, we're able to offload the maintenance of physical hardware so that our teams can spend more time creating value for our customers and implementing new features. Using Terraform, which is our infrastructure as code tool that we decided to go with, we are able to define our entire network as code and deploy these air-gapped networks across multiple AWS regions and fabrics, such as commercial or GovStyle. Once we use Terraform to deploy our backend infrastructure, we're able to use a combination of SaltStack and group policy to automatically configure the security posture of our network. These can be things like our server applications that our developers can use. Within AWS, we can create these virtual air-gapped networks using VPCs, firewalls, and other AWS services. Some firewalls even have Terraform providers so that you can configure your firewall roles and objects within code along with the rest of your network stack. Because we can define this entire network backbone as code, we can deploy these virtual air-gapped networks across multiple AWS regions and accounts, either per customer or for prototype staging and production environments. We decided to use Terraform for more than just our backend network. We also use Terraform for deploying our server applications that our developers and customers need. These can be services such as GitLab or the Atlassian stack, or even Jenkins, which has been mentioned a few times on this show. Expanding on that, we can create CI/CD pipelines for our Terraform code so that when we push changes to our main branch, they get automatically deployed through our different fabrics, so prototype, staging, and production. And we can implement QA testing as part of that rollout. SaltStack, which is an agent-based configuration as code tool, can be deployed as part of your base operating system images, so that when you go to deploy your servers, it will automatically configure them based on your code. As an example, if you deploy an EC2 instance with Terraform, you can give that instance a role of Confluence, and SaltStack will automatically install and configure Confluence based on your code. This lets us maintain or deploy the exact same application across multiple networks. Because your entire environment is defined in code, we can easily see the security posture of our network at any given time. This lets our team spend less time fighting fires and more time on implementing new features for our customers. As some examples, if you need to implement new security controls or patch and update your endpoints in your network, you can quickly update your CAC and roll those changes out to your CI/CD pipelines into your multiple environments, hopefully starting with prototype. AWS even has some native security services that your team can leverage to reduce the overhead even further. Because these are AWS services, you can also configure them and deploy them with your same Terraform code. As some examples, GuardDuty, which can scan your network for anomalous or malicious activity, Inspector, which can scan your network for vulnerabilities, and CloudWatch and CloudGirl, which work together to aggregate logs for your EC2 instances and images in your AWS account. So at a high level, that's what we did to try to make our lives a little easier. What can you do from here? Well, start small. Pick one of your server applications that you're hosting and deploy it using an IAC tool like Terraform. From there, install and configure it using a CAC tool like SoulStack. You'll be surprised at how fast and easy it is to implement new features for your customers once you have a strong technical baseline of code. That's all I have for today, but if you're interested to know more or go into more details, you can find me in the hallway, and I will gladly talk to your office. But thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, Gary. We've got 2 more Ignite talks for you today. And next up is Jeremy. Ready? Ready as you're gonna be.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, thanks for coming out. Today I want to talk to you about something that I really care about, and that's KPIs. I know a lot of people probably use them, a lot of people probably use them, especially in engineering. But I want to give you 3 ways that you can make your KPIs not suck. So, who am I? So, my name's Jeremy, and I'm currently building a platform for all sets. The reason I bring that up is because I've actually seen almost 1,000 teams building new KPIs at this point. And I want to share with you some of the things. So, who here uses KPIs? Sorry. Yeah, so who here uses KPIs? Who loves their KPIs? A few people. Okay, that's good. That's awesome. I want to talk to you, for those that don't, I want to talk to you about 3 key things that you can use to build better KPIs. And I'm doing this in the form of ANSI patterns. And at the end of this talk, I hope you can take these away and apply these to your teams. So the first ANSI pattern is your KPIs are actually focusing on activity instead of outcomes. And this is really common when you're asked to build KPIs for your team for the sake of building KPIs. And a lot of people start that way. Manager comes in and says, hey, we need to be more data-driven. And you actually come up with a couple of KPIs for your team. And a lot of people start with what they do during their day-to-day. That ends up being misaligned with the outcomes of the team a lot of times. So making sure that you actually focus on what your team is responsible for leads you to building better KPIs. So if you pick things that are outcomes-based, you end up focusing on things that your team accomplishes instead of what your team does. And you often avoid the trap that activity-based KPIs end up always pushing your team to do more without really having a destination of when you've done that. Activity KPIs can also force you to not align your KPIs to your business goals. You should be able to track your KPIs all the way back to things that your CEO cares about. If you have conversations like this, you may realize that you're somewhat misaligned. And the unsaid thing that we actually see when we go into a lot of our clients actually is something like this. We find that the CEO cares about the outcomes for the business, but there's a disconnect. So for us as leaders, picking the right KPIs can actually help bridge this gap. So the second thing, a lot of teams end up cargo culting their KPIs. If you're not familiar with that term, I usually see it in agile software development, where you bring in agile practices for the sake of doing the practices, but not really understanding why you're doing them. And that happens in KPIs too. So if you bring in a set of KPIs or a set of metrics, you can just be doing them for the sake of having KPIs. And that leads to some pretty bad behaviors. This usually happens with a lot of popular frameworks. Things like the DevOps metrics are really popular these days. And a lot of people, sometimes even press from with senior leadership, bring them in and say, let's implement these 4 metrics. Everyone's like, okay, we'll do that. But you don't really believe in them. So you end up doing the metrics, building a bunch of dashboards, and not really improving your team. You should actually instead make sure when you pull in KPIs and metrics that you believe in them as a leader, that they'll help your team. So you can deconstruct these frameworks and find the KPIs that matter to you. And that's what everyone should be doing when they're actually picking these KPIs for their teams. So the last anti-pattern here is using metrics and KPIs for people. And a lot of times when people actually learn that your team is implementing KPIs or some way to measure the team, the first reaction is almost always fear. And that's what, rightfully so. When you start bringing in performance management, a lot of people can start getting concerned for their jobs or worrying that they're not actually being productive or something's wrong with the business. But KPIs should actually be a compass. They should really help your team understand where your North Star is, what you're trying to accomplish. Similar to anti-pattern 1, they should be goals-based and outcomes-based. And if you end up using your KPIs in a way that incentivizes people to gain them, you're doing it wrong. So people shouldn't feel the need to gain the metrics to protect themselves. They should feel aligned and invested in what the KPIs are that you pick so that you build a better organization. So thanks for coming out, checking me out here, and go build some great KPIs.
All right, thanks, Jeremy. So we started with an Aaron, we're gonna finish with an Aaron.
So hi, my name is Aaron Williams. I'm with Ampere. Next a couple seconds. All right. So I wanted to introduce you all to ARM64, our AR64 servers, and I could have told you about their performance and all this other stuff, but I thought it'd be much more fun to tell you how you can help combat climate change and save the world as a DevOps person. So, a little background data. We all know global warming is happening and data centers use an insane amount of energy. These numbers are really tough to get.